Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our communities. What did they do to get started and what are they doing to stay there? And here we are, season 4, already into 2023. And I am so excited to bring you another special guest. Today, I'm talking to Crystal Nichols. Crystal is an HR business partner at T-Mobile. She's got lots of certifications. She's certified in HR. She's got her executive coaching certification. And I am so excited to have you on the show. How you doing, Crystal?
Hi, Bruce. Thanks. I'm super jazzed to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
I am so excited to have you on the show. Crystal and I have known each other for quite a long time. We're both in the same group. We call it Climb, Connect, Lead, Inspire, Mentor, and Build, where we read books together in a leadership community. And I'm so glad you're part of that, Crystal.
It's so good.
Yeah. And you have to get up quite early for that. Because where are you located at?
I do. 7 a.m. is Climb book time for us. And I am in the Pacific Northwest, beautiful Seattle area.
Yeah, Seattle. Okay. So I've shared this with you before. I have a goal to visit all 50 states, and Washington is one of the states I still have not visited. So Seattle, can you believe that? I'm coming.
Fantastic. Yeah, you have a host. I will love to show you around. It will be fantastic. Oh my goodness.
Well, I'm excited to have you on the show today. We're going to talk leadership, and anytime someone, we've talked about some coaching and leadership development many times, and anytime I get to have someone on the show that has perspective around that, I love that because the audience out there is always has a thirst to learn something new, and so I know that you'll bring something for the group today. Hey, for those who don't know T-Mobile, I'm sure most people probably do, but those who don't, what is T-Mobile and how do you serve your customers?
Yeah, T-Mobile. Well, we love our customers. That is actually one of our values right up front. And so we're a network carrier. We do cell phone provisions, we do internet provisions. We have very fast 5G network. I get to support great leaders in that organization day by day. So it's a great place to be right now.
I love that. Anytime someone says we love our customers, I'm like, oh man, that's a mission-driven organization. And so I'm so glad to have you on. Hey, I want to, again, I've known you for a long time. I know that we have a lot of the same friends in our network, but there's probably some things I don't know about Crystal. Hey, would you share the Crystal Nichols story? Like, where did you grow up and how in the world did you get into HR and leadership?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm kind of a small town girl. I did spend the first 11 years in San Diego, California, but I graduated with a class of 37 kids in high school. So I grew up in a small town outside of Redding, California for the majority of my time. I played high school sports because, when your classes are so small, you get to play them all. So I played volleyball, basketball, softball, a lot of different things in high school. I think the first place I was introduced to someone seeing leadership in me was in high school. I had a PE teacher who, let me run some of her classes, gave me some of her administrative duties, sponsored me for different scholarships to go to different camps when I was in high school. She asked me to start the Leo Club, which was a version of a high school club by the Lions Club, and asked me to be president of it. And that was my first kind of chance to become, a leader of some sorts. I had no idea what I was doing, gathering up kids to be in a little organization, but we had a lot of fun. I think she invested in me in ways I hadn't seen anyone invest in me yet. And so I've just been trying to carry it forward since she showed me that investing in others is a great way to go. After that, I moved to Tucson, Arizona and went to Pima Community College. I have to say 2-year schools or community colleges have my heart. I don't think everyone has to go to a 4-year university to be successful. My counselor asked me what I wanted to major in, and I was 18. I said, I don't know, which were my favorite words at the time and probably clueless in a lot of ways. But he asked me what I did in high school, and I probably said some sort of sports. And he dug in a little deeper and he said, so what clubs were you involved in? And I shared that I was in Future Business Leaders of America, FBLA. I actually don't know if that club is still around, but nonetheless, that's what I was in. And he took that as I wanted to get a business degree. And I was like, okay. And then, so he said, so what do you want to major in? And it listed entrepreneurship, accounting, finance, marketing. And then somewhere in there, I heard human resources, which I was like, what is that? And my 18-year-old self heard, you need to talk to people every day. So I signed up for that. I was all in when I got to talk to people every day. So I happened to get into HR early on, and I just didn't want to change my major. I was scared I'd be there 5 or 6 years.
Mm,
And so I knocked out my degree as fast as I could. So
I love that.
I figured you got a business degree, you can do something with it. And I just fell in love with HR. I couldn't help myself. It's been a great space for me to be in. And I learned so much so far. So yeah, that's how I got into my HR degree. I'm sure I have a few stories to tell as well.
I love that. I love, first of all, how you talked about first of all, you had mentors early in your career, like in high school. You had a PE teacher
Yeah.
that's already shaping you and helping you develop. And what a gift that is. And then of course your counselor, kind of navigating you. Little do we realize how people shape us
Mhm.
along the way. And of course, you had, I'm curious though, you had some awareness there. You said, hey, HR, I like to talk to people. Like that just like energized you. I'm curious, like as you've kind of moved through your career, have
Mhm.
you had like other mentors that have helped you get to where you wanted to go? And what was it about them that helped you?
I've been fortunate to have a lot of great people in front of me. A lot of my managers have been
Mm,
really great mentors. I have stayed in contact with them purposefully, because I still look back and reach out to them and say, hey, when I did this, what was this like? Right.
mm,
And so I continually still reach out to people I've been connected with from, workplace to volunteer places, and just kind of keep my network really strong. But as far as mentors, I don't believe in just having one mentor. I have
mm,
many mentors that
mm,
I can go to for different topics. And I don't block myself in to only talking about one topic with one
mm,
person. So someone shared with me a long time ago to have like a board of directors. And
mm,
so I've kind of applied those practices along the way to have many different people that I can reach out to, that I can talk to, run by crazy situations or something I'm thinking of doing. I had a mentor most recently who navigated me towards a coaching certification. I will never forget that conversation with her. I look up to her still this day, and I
mm,
saw her last week. So it was a joy of fresh air then. So I guess I say all of this to say, stay connected to your people, use a board of directors type model so that
mhm,
you can kind of connect through different things you're going through in your personal or your professional career, and get advice. Because one of the things I've also learned is I don't know it all.
mm.
So people who have been through things can give you great advice.
Hey, I want to ask you, and I've heard others use the term board of directors, and they have like just they've had this conviction about how important that was. Do you let your board of directors know they're on your board of directors, or are these just people that are
Yeah.
special in your life that you just know they're the ones I'm going to reach out to you for big moments or even little moments?
I didn't vocalize that till probably in the last year or two.
Hmm.
I don't know why I wasn't vocalizing that, but I have been very clear with some of the people
Hmm.
that are in my network on my AKA board of directors and sharing that. I think it's important that people understand that you have graciousness to what they have given you.
Hmm.
And by saying, hey, I think you're a stellar mentor, I have enjoyed these conversations, thank you. That it means a lot to people to hear, hey, you know what, she really values what I share with her. And so that's why I have been sharing it more recently, but in the past I haven't, just because I don't know. I don't know if it was like, hey, didn't take the time, or if it was, oh, I'm kind of embarrassed. I don't know everything,
Mm.
right? Like being that vulnerable self is sometimes hard. So I'm trying to share it as I keep going.
I love that. Vulnerability. The more we talk about it, the more we realize the importance of it. And
Hmm.
it reminds me of when I was at SHRM a couple of years ago when I heard Michael Phelps speak. He was
Mm,
speaking on mental health in the workplace. But what he said was something that applied to what you're talking about. And he said, the more we talk about it, the easier it gets. And I think it's just something we don't really talk about it. And then the more we talk about it, now all of a sudden it's starting to get easier. We're starting to see the value of
yeah.
talking about that, whether we're telling people that, hey, you're a mentor for me, you're helping me, or raising our hand saying, hey, I just don't know the answer. Can you
Hmm.
help?
Brene
Hey,
Brown is my favorite reference in vulnerability. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
I'm a huge fan of hers.
Oh my goodness. And I saw her at Sherm as well. She's fantastic. I love that.
She's on my
What
bucket list.
well, we're going to talk leadership, but I want to touch on purpose because we
Hmm.
both, we just got through reading the book, the purpose factor in
Hmm.
our climb group. And I always like to ask the question around purpose. And I always like to reference it up with, when was that moment when you found your lane? I mean, here you were, you had this counselor that said, hey, here's some choices. You're like, hey, HR, that sounds good. You got into HR and you navigated in your career. And now here you are today, truly
Hmm.
with a tremendous amount of experience. You are not just leading, but you're coaching and you're just doing great things. Was there a moment like when you found your lane that you found that purpose, or are you still working through the process, or were there moments? Talk about that.
Mm. I think you talk about this. This is the journey, right? It's the
Mm-hmm.
full journey. I think there were a couple of moments in my career, one of them being when I accepted a role as career development specialist, I think was the title. And I was coming out of no, it was a learning development specialist. I don't know,
Okay.
one of those two.
Yep.
I was coming out of a payroll role, and it was very focused. I mean, getting people's paychecks right is a very focused role. This role had tremendous variability and opportunity. And I had a leader who would walk up to my desk at one day and she said, person who's facilitating new hire orientation is leaving next week. You want to deliver it next week? What? I've never delivered new hire orientation. I didn't know how to speak in front of people. I was nervous. She gave me rocks like that all of the time. And
Oh,
I just, I skinned my knees a couple of times, sure, but I just ate it up. I was excited. I was hungry. After 6 months, I redesigned the new hire orientation program. I got invested in career development conversations and started building content and building classes around career development. The moment I attached myself to developing others and learning how to grow and help others grow,
mm,
that's all you needed to give me. I was just soaking it up. It was a hard role. I did it for almost 2 years, I think, just before I moved into an HR generalist role. And I quickly realized I could take that stuff in career development and bolt it onto a generalist role, and then bolt it onto
mm,
an HR business partner role, and bolt it onto coaching. Like once I started picking up those experiences, is that journey I was
mm.
sharing earlier, that's my lane. That's the space I love. You can tell I'm super excited about it, but I could talk about career development all day and helping others grow. And I think that's where the purpose factor also aligned me with kind of defining that in a couple of sentences. That workbook in the purpose factor
Mhm.
helped me distill like real clear about what my purpose is. And that's helping leaders, helping teams get clarity and chaos through learning and development experiences. So that's my goal. That's what I'll carry on and move forward with. I think it gets me really excited to kind of see what 2023 brings, because as I continue to work on my purpose, I continue to get more more learning opportunities, more confidence, and continue
Mm.
to grow in the space.
I love that. Whenever I wrote down the word help others, helping others. If you
Mhm.
if you're listening right now, you need to get out your pen, get out your journal. You need to take some notes here. This is good stuff. I was thinking about, you just took me back to when I joined Armstrong Relocation. I was
Mm.
37 years old. I was still trying to find my lane. I had a good career, but I just hadn't found the lane that really brought me fulfillment. And when I found it, it was because I shifted my focus to helping others. So
Mm.
whether it was in a member association like Dallas HR, or whether it was serving customers in the workplace when we were helping people with moving services, when I really shifted that focus off of me doing this work to how
Mhm.
can I help you,
Mm.
man, that just changed. And so you just mentioned the purpose factor. Brian Boucher and Gabrielle came on to
Mhm.
our climb group, and they were just so.
Yeah.
But what that book did for me, and I'll put a link in the show notes. It validated what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Everything. It was all about when you learn how to help others. All of a sudden, that purpose just amplifies, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and they can go out and amplify others. I think there's always a tremendous value in paying it forward and just investing in others without expecting anything in return.
Yeah,
What that book from Brian Boucher and Gabrielle did was give me a filter to kind of work through everything that I'm working on and go, does this meet my purpose? Yes or no? If
mm,
it's no, I'm not going to spend any time on it. Pitch it to the side, maybe get to it later. I don't know. But as things come through your day, you can have the filter of, is it meeting my purpose?
I love that. I love it. Well, let's talk leadership. Here we are,
Yeah.
2023. Crystal, you've heard, you've
Hmm.
listened to the show before, and I do love to ask my guests, because there's so many different ways to define leadership. When someone says,
Yeah.
"Hey, what's leadership to you, Crystal?"
Mm.
How would you respond to that?
I think leadership is several things, and it's a consolidated thought of many different thought leaders. So, not to borrow from too many people, but I think it's connecting, engaging, inspiring others. The best leaders I have seen in front of me do those three things.
Mm,
The thing I'm now learning recently is to do those three things well, connecting, engaging, inspiring, you have to do it with empathy. Um,
mm,
if you don't have empathy, I don't think you lead really well. Then the last thing I would say is you have to be inclusive. Leaders are inclusive by nature. They invite people into the conversation, and everyone has a fair opportunity to be part of the conversation. And leaders build trust really well. They state what they're going to be doing, their
mm.
intentions are, and then they follow through with it. Every day I try to model all of that. And if I can model that, then I can continue to grow in my leadership space.
I love that. I love connect, engage, and inspire. Write those three words down.
Mm.
Absolutely fantastic. I was visiting with Jim Link recently on the podcast, and he talked about empathy, how important that was. But
Yeah.
I want to talk about the last word you used,
Mm.
and that's inclusive.
Yeah.
And where I want to go with that is, what if someone on the team doesn't feel like they're being included? Is there something they can do? Because sometimes I think about, as a leader, I think about, I try to include people, but every once in a while I leave people off the list,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
not intentionally. I just left them off the list, and then sometimes people think, oh, why wasn't I included? That Any thoughts around that? Maybe you weren't included on something that you might maybe share with someone listening today. It's like, hey, you know what? I believe in that, but what can
Yeah.
I do if I'm not being included?
If you're not being included, I think the most important thing is to speak up.
Mm,
Not everyone knows that you didn't feel included unless you say something, right? I think a lot of times exclusion happens by accident, not
mm,
intentionally. And if someone has no idea that you didn't feel included, then they have no idea to include you next time. So speaking up will be number one. I think number two too is let them know how it made you feel.
Hmm.
If you felt excluded, there was a reason why you felt excluded.
Hmm.
Maybe it's you didn't get invited to the softball game after work, or the team that they formed. Maybe it's you didn't get invited to a meeting because they didn't know you had expertise in that area, right? So I think you've got to speak up. I think too, if you do speak up and nothing happens, hold your leaders accountable. Continue to let them know that you want to be part of
Hmm.
something that has made you feel excluded. I think those are some areas that I would say. Also, too, by sharing that why you felt excluded, people can then understand what it is to be in your shoes and what happened. So I think those things are very helpful for leaders. I see this as a space that all leaders can grow in.
Hmm.
I'm not a master at it, and I'm gonna, stumble somewhere. And I think the best gift someone could give me and say, "Hey, Crystal, I didn't like how that went. Can you consider this next time?" Right? Coming forward with a recommendation. So
I stumble in that area all the time. I mean, I forget somebody on my Christmas card list, or, I want to include everyone. I love
yeah.
the advice that you shared. Speak up, and then most importantly, let them know how you feel. A lot of times too is that we develop that brand in the workplace, and sometimes leaders may think, well, they just don't want to. They just probably don't want to go. And that I've talked to different people about, hey, we're going to do this event, and I don't think they'll want to go. And a good leader will say, well, even if you
Yeah.
invite them, that goes a long ways. So
Yeah.
just include them. I love
Ask
that.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to ask them. How do we know they don't want to know? Don't
Yeah.
assume.
Yeah.
I think that's been one of my learnings. T-Mobile has invested in a lot of training from Neuro Leadership Institute lately.
Yeah.
And that has been really one of my takeaways is no assumptions, ask.
Mm. No assumptions asked. I love that. And I'll put the Speed of Trust link in the
Oh,
show
yeah.
notes if someone wants to get that book. That is absolutely a great book. I love that. Hey, I
Yeah.
do want to ask you this question, because on LinkedIn it says you're a versatile HR
Mhm.
business partner with strong leadership skills, influencing and coaching skills. So what I wanted to ask you, and there's probably a lot of people that are listening today, they're like, what does a business partner do, and how do you really help your team members?
Several ways. One of the things I think an HR business partner can demonstrate strong capabilities is building relationships with the leaders and the
Mm,
teams. Regardless of title, I spend as much as I can from a time perspective on both ends of the spectrum so that I know the business. If I know what the individual contributors are doing and know what they care about, and also know what is keeping the executives up at night or what the biggest initiatives or goals are, then I can come forward with really strong recommendations. HR business partners are responsible for kind of tending to the employee engagement and culture of an organization, as well as helping a business leader meet their people related goals and business objectives. The word business partner in there, I think, is very intentional because of
mm,
the level of business acumen it takes to be an HR business partner. But also, I think I view it as a partnership.
mm.
I help the leaders kind of help navigate the organization and the ship, if you will, and individual contributors really be impactful in their space and support the larger initiatives of the organization. So there's a wide variety of things I get to touch every day, but engagement and culture and development in that space are my favorite.
Yeah, that's huge. And when you talked about that, I wrote down two words, two thoughts. One was building relationships. How
Mhm.
important that is if you're going to be a partner in any role in your organization. The key is you got to build relationships, which builds
Mhm.
that trust, which you were talking about that earlier. But
Yeah.
partnership, use the word partnership. When I think about
Mhm.
partnership, it sounds to me like you're saying, hey, a real partnership is me helping you and you helping me, right?
Yeah.
It's not just me helping you. Hey, I'm here to help you, and just let me know what need, but they need to help you too along the way. So you're probably coaching to that, right?
That's right. I think too, partnership has a shared understanding and a shared goal. At
Mm,
the top of the triangle, right? We're all trying to help the business achieve their goals. I think it's a collaborative partnership because I can't help my responsibility of goals and the accomplishments through that without them, and they can't accomplish what they need to do without people. Usually, leaders are very knowledgeable in their technical space or whatever their subject matter expert is, and not so strong in the people related space. And so that's the partnership, right? I can help them be better leaders. I can help them motivate others when all other motivational things have been tried. I can help them continue to refine their culture and continue to help everybody move forward, like rowing the boat in the same direction, if you will. If one person isn't rowing in the right direction, you're going to
mm.
start spinning around and around. And so it's that collaborative partnership, I think, that the HR business partner can help a leader be very successful with.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because I know there's probably some people on that are listening that are like, you know what, I want to be in 2023. I want to be the best HR business partner I can be.
Yeah.
And how do I do that? And what you're basically saying is, hey, you need to start first by building relationships, right?
Yeah.
Get to know your people.
Get to know your people, get to know the business. I never want to make a recommendation that doesn't make any sense,
Mm,
right? I lose credibility really quickly. So I spend a lot of time in those lanes, if you will, just because when you lose trust or you lose the relationship, you lose
mm.
your ability to influence, you lose your ability to make solid recommendations. You lose trust, right? So the more I spend time investing in those core components, the easier things get. You don't have to continue to build a foundation of trust when you have them already there. So that's when things get easier and you
Hey,
can
let,
support
let,
your client better.
let me ask you a real quick question as you're sitting here sharing this. I'm thinking about some different partners in our organization. And what do you have to say to the people that maybe they're a business partner and they're trying to build that trust? They're
Mhm.
trying to get it going, but they just aren't having success there. They're like, I haven't been able to
Mm,
build this relationship or build trust. What would you
yeah.
have to say to someone? I know it probably depends on a
Mm.
lot of things, but just in general, what would you have to say to someone that says, "Hey, I'm trying, I just haven't been able to do that"?
Ooh, Bruce, this is the best question. Um, Listen first.
Ooh,
You can't build trust without listening,
oh,
right? Think about the times when you've gone in, blazing with all of your questions or recommendations.
yeah.
You got to start with listening. Listen to what their pain points are. Listen to what's going well. Listen to what they're doing. Listen to whatever they want to share. Ask questions that helps kind of unpeel that for them. You have to start with listening first. I don't know who told me that or where I read that, but
That's
yeah,
gold.
trust
That's
starts with listening.
That's gold. Oh my goodness, that is so good. I was wondering where you were going to go with that, and that's exactly what we all need to do. Is we've got to be good listeners and
Yeah.
understand like their point of view, and like you said, having that empathy. Hey, you also I noticed that you also mentioned somewhere I was reading on LinkedIn that you use data to tell stories and make
Yeah.
recommendations. Talk a little bit about that because I think what we're talking about here is we're talking about developing influence in the workplace, building
Yeah.
trust, but you're also able to use stories with data.
That influencing factor as an HR business partner is key. Also, credibility is key. And as you work with any leader, whether you're an HR business partner, or whether you're in accounting, or whether you're in sales, or whether you're in any field, you need to be able to have points of data to support your story or support your recommendation. And as I have grown in my career, I have really learned that the better I can tell a story with backed up data, the better or quicker the alignment can come forward from that leader. So I have been working extremely hard through, especially through this year, because it's been a very much an organizational shift year for me. and the clients that I support is coming forward with the data that tells the story, and then having that supportive data to make a recommendation for anyone out there, or even in other fields, to be honest, is figure out what data you have available, figure out how to tell the story, because that's actually the knack. You
Mhm.
can't just throw Excel spreadsheets at leaders and say, hey, this is why I think this is a good idea. They'll never read it. They don't have time.
Mhm.
So figuring out how to tell that story, synthesize that data, and come forward with a recommendation. I've seen peers in past roles analyze the data and just put it back into the leader without a recommendation, and they're like, no, HR, you're the expert, tell me what you think I should do. And you should feel comfortable doing that. And if you've done
Mhm.
your research, if you know the data behind you, you should have an understanding of what would be the best idea or a recommendation to go forward. Keep an eye on, I think back to the recommendation piece, keep an eye on the tools that keep coming out and new mechanisms to tell stories with data.
Mm.
I think that's the investment HR can continue to get better at. Excel is going to be great, but how can you use Power BI? How can you use some of the other tools out there available to you to digest and tell stories with data?
That's fantastic. I love that. I was actually just thinking about, you brought up connect, engage, and inspire, and I just thought about engagement. We've been hearing about engagement, how employees are not engaged in
Mm,
some different companies. But when you tell a story like, hey, based on these statistics, 1 out of every 3 employees, like you're able to really tell a story. People are
yeah.
able to they hear a different message when you're able to do that,
Hmm.
right? What are
Yeah.
some of the tools that you mentioned? Any thoughts around that?
I take a deep breath because my I think probably my go-to tool is Excel and PowerPoint still. I
Hmm.
continue to try to challenge myself to go find new ways,
Yeah.
quicker ways to automate things, and don't just keep doing things the way that I've always done it. So that was what the deep breath was about. I think my favorite tools still are, a few PowerPoints and the Excel data behind it.
Hmm.
Here's why. I always think about my audience, and my audience is SVP level right now.
Okay.
And
All right.
when I sit in front of him, I have 5 minutes of his attention
Mm,
in something. And you need a visual graphic, you need something to kind of anchor in to tell him, that individual, what the importance of is, why you're sitting in front of them for 5 minutes. And that's what they tend to grab onto right now. And until they get new ways of seeing things, it's kind of hard to steer your ship in that direction. So those are my favorites right now. I wouldn't say that they're most innovative, most new ways, but I think that's kind of the space I'm in right now.
what I like about what you said though is you said, "Hey, we're always looking for different tools, different resources," and I think that's the key. It's funny. In my book, Life in the Leadership Lane, I talk about developing influence in the workplace, and there's these 5 areas. There's these 5 different steps, right? And number one is we need to start by building trust. And so I went out to, I don't know, 20 or 25 different HR leaders and said, how would you build trust in the workplace?
Hmm.
And what you're saying here is you said, hey, look, many times we are talking with executives and we have 5 minutes, right? We have 5 minutes to get our points across. That
Yeah.
audience is different. And
Yeah.
so at the end of the day, it's listening well. And what you said was sharing stories. And
Yeah.
so I want people to hear that, because a lot of times there's people that, even myself, we're trying to influence the process. We're trying to influence the project. We're trying to influence the candidate or the position or whatever that is. And it's really about, have we done all the little things to get to that part? Are we sharing data? Are we
Yeah.
sharing stories with data? Are we listening? Are we doing all these things? And everything you're sharing through this conversation are just right on target with what I've been
Mhm.
hearing. And I just appreciate that, which leads me
Hmm.
to one of the things, and I've talked with you about this before, and that's coaching, right?
Yeah.
You've been coaching for a long time, but a few years ago, you actually went and got your certificate to be
Yeah.
to do some executive coaching. And I just wanted to ask you a question about how's this helped you? Like, how has this helped you in your
Ooh.
role? And how do you help others with that?
Oh my goodness. This is gonna sound kind of cliche, but it changed my life, to be really honest.
Mm,
I met a coach who happens to be my mentor that I was telling you about earlier. And I love the way that she connected with others and she asked questions
mm.
and she listened. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do I do that? And she's like, well, I got a coaching certification. And I was like, sign me up. I want to be like you, right?
Mm.
I say that kind of lightly, but really it can fundamentally change how you connect with others, how you hear or listen to deeper things being said than, aren't what just the words are at the surface level. I think most importantly, it has gotten to help me know myself better. The going through the coaching certification helped me tune in to myself and my inner voice and come back with someone who's more confident, someone who wants to know what other people are up to and are curious. I couldn't recommend it enough. It probably was the biggest investment I made in myself, but the most rewarding. It was a
Mm.
2-year process for me, one academic program through a master's degree and 100+ hours of coaching. So it's an investment, and a lot of the things you can learn on your own. You don't have to go through a formal program, but it's the investment in yourself and showing up every day, trying to practice what you're learning. And so coaching has fundamentally been a life changer for me.
I got to tell you, I got chills when you said it changed my life. I mean, when
Mm,
someone says something like that, I'm like, wow, this is big. This is
yeah.
like, this is big. But what you said, what I wrote down was, it helped you get to know yourself better.
Hmm.
Like that is so important.
Yeah.
Many times we don't like get to know ourselves and our strength and where we add the most value and where we need to work on the different gaps like that.
Yeah.
I love how you also shared how it gave you confidence.
Mm,
Like who doesn't need or want confidence? I mean, that's
yeah.
absolutely fantastic. But the last part you said was this, and this is the part I wanted to ask you about. You said it's a big investment, but a bigger return. Like
Yeah.
that's fantastic. I thought about something that John Maxwell, of course, I'm a big John Maxwell fan, and how he said this many years ago. He said, listen, if you can't bet on yourself, who's going to bet on you? Right.
That's
You have to
good. I haven't
be,
heard that.
yeah, right. When it's your dream, no one can talk you into it and no one can
Mm,
talk you out of it. He's like, bet on you. And that's basically what
mm,
you've done is you said, hey, look, I want to do that. But the person that you mentioned earlier that inspired you to do that, that's like, it's like,
yeah.
how great is that to have people in your life like that? Tell me, what have
Yeah.
you, since you've been doing this now for a few years, and I'm assuming you kind of do this on the side that people that need help. Who do you
Yeah.
typically help in this for some of the coaching you do?
Yeah. Couple of my favorite types of coaching clients are in the leadership space. So
Hmm.
wanting to get to grow in their space to a director to a VP. The other area of people that I love to help are people who are looking for a job change, people are
Mm,
looking to go to a new company, people that are just stuck in their careers and helping them get unstuck.
that's fantastic. And let me ask you, what have you just real quickly here? What have you now that you've kind of gone through this, you've got confidence, you've learned these things about yourself, but have there been any aha, I didn't realize this until I kind of started going down
Mm.
this path, any aha moments?
One of the things I have learned is we are all resilient.
Mm,
We all have a deep connection to be successful, but that
mm,
definition of success is different from
mm,
everyone. And before I was a coach, I mean, I used some coaching skills in my role, but
sure.
before I was a coach, I thought my definition of success was everyone's definition of success.
Mm,
And so stepping back to kind of, let people uncover that for themselves is a really powerful and joyful experience. as a
Mhm.
coach. So I think we said it earlier, no assumptions, right? Letting people kind of step into that for themselves and define what success looks like. Oh, my favorite moments of the day for sure.
Well, I can tell you're leaning into your purpose. We talked earlier about helping
Mm,
others, and that's been another way for you to do that.
yeah,
So, and what I love about this is that this isn't separate. It's in alignment with who you are,
yeah.
right? You have your career, you help people, you do this as well. It's just all in part of you and your purpose. I love that. I want to ask you this question because I mean, you're busy, like you have a
Yeah.
lot going on. What drives you?
I think it's energizing to watch that journey for someone. And I think
Hmm.
that's why I continuously keep investing in others to kind
Hmm.
of help them in their journey. That's what's energizing, what's inspiring me. That's why I get up in the morning, because I get
Hmm.
those opportunities in my day job and I get those opportunities as a coach. Those are the moments that are just really satisfying, is just to watch somebody, realize their dreams, find their definition of success and achieve it. Those are my favorite moments. So that's what inspires me.
I love that. It feels good to watch people have success. I get
Yeah.
great joy out of that too. As a matter of fact, I want to challenge anyone that's listening right now to write down what's your definition of success. I've never really thought about it, and I just, as you're sharing that, I'm like, you know what?
Mm,
Everybody has a different definition. Write it
yeah.
down, share it with Crystal, or put it out there on social. Let us know
Yes.
what your
That'd be
thoughts
great.
are. Hey, I've in Climb we talked about recently. We talked about uh, going into a new year
Yeah.
and what we do as far as planning. And I talked a little bit about my process. I'm curious, do you have any big goals for 2023? I mean, you've achieved a lot,
Mm.
Crystal.
Oh,
What about
yes.
2023? What do you got to look ahead to?
I am super excited for 2023. I think it brings a lot of more of the same, continuing to build on my goals, as a coach, as a business partner. I haven't defined what my professional goals are going to be for 2023 yet, but I can tell you some of the things I'm thinking about personally.
Okay.
And that is more travel.
Hmm.
Um, I love to be outdoors. I love to go hiking. We have 3 golden retrievers, so we love to be outside. Pacific Northwest is so amazing for all of that. We love to go camping, so we'll be more traveling and more outdoors. I think also too, I will continue investing in others.
Hmm.
I think 2023 will just continue to be more investments in that space. I am taking on a new leadership role in Seattle Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM. I am newly elected college relations director, so that will be a big part of my 2023. This is kind of my first step into volunteering into SHRM, so I'm excited about that. And I will also continue to volunteer in different ways that I can. I'm big into volunteering in animal rescue and food banks and that space. So
Love that. Love that.
um, giving back, I think, is also energizing. So what I'm looking forward to in 2023.
I love that. Real quick, I want you to just the college relations committee,
Yeah.
or did you say Seattle Sherm? Is that the
Yes.
name of the chapter?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Thanks to
Okay.
your encouragement, I have always kind of gone, Bruce is involved in SHRM so much. And
Ah,
I've participated in meetings in Dallas. I've
yep.
participated in a few things here, but
Yep.
last year I was challenging myself to get out of my comfort zone. And now that,
Mm.
kind of COVID is declining, or the space of what we knew of is declining and everything is starting to come back in person, I'm feeling a little bit more connected and energized towards giving back in the SHRM space. So
That's
yeah.
fantastic. I absolutely love you are listen, your trajectory is getting ready to change even more. This is absolutely
Mm.
fantastic. I know that you're going to add so much value.
Oh,
I
thank
was
you.
thinking about like when I was in college, I wasn't part of a SHRM chapter. I was just trying to get out of college. And what's interesting is you meet these college students that, man, they're already purposeful and they're already in
Yeah.
these student HR groups and they're already going to meetings. I'm like, you are so much further ahead. And to be able to give and pour wisdom into some of those students you're going to just like, it's just so fulfilling. Well, you're going to love you're going to love serving in that role. And I'm so excited for you. And I can't wait to see what's ahead for you in that particular area. Hey,
Thank
before we
you.
go to It's Time to Accelerate, I do like to ask if you've ever been given any advice. It was just so good. You just, maybe you learned it from your counselor or your PE teacher, or maybe early career. It's so
Ah.
good that you just find yourself sharing that with others.
I think my favorite piece of advice has always been investing in your network.
Mm.
Someone said to me, and actually I was listening to your podcast with your brother, and he said it as well, is your net worth is your network, right? I think that's it.
Yeah.
Someone said that to me about 15 years ago,
Mm.
and I have just been hustling to continue to grow my network. You never know when you need your network. And so I've
Mhm.
always just invested in it. I think I've had a lot of great success and memories through my own network, and I give more than I receive, and that has always been my
Mm.
goal, to just keep giving to others. So that's I think that would be my piece of advice. That's timeless advice. That's advice
Yeah.
you can take when you're 18 or 81.
Yeah.
Just continue to be intentional about your network.
Yeah.
And your network isn't social media. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
It's not just being on social media, it's connecting with people, it's calling people up, it's dropping them a text when you haven't talked to them in 3 months because you thought of them and you wanted to say, hey, how's it going? Hope you have a great holiday. Or,
Yeah.
someone said something and you reminded me of this. I want to share it with you. You're very good at this, Bruce, by the way. And so it's something that I've just for 15 years just kind of worked on.
Love it. I love
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah. And I see you post, you'll like share people's posts or you'll comment on them and different things like that. And so that's
Yeah.
fantastic. So let's go to It's Time to Accelerate. I'm going to ask you a few fun questions as
Yeah.
we conclude the show. And I always like to ask the question, would you rather read a book or listen to a podcast? And do you have a favorite?
Yes, both.
Both.
Here's what I would say. My drive in or my drive home is always something development wise. I get
Mm.
one free trip to work a day.
Yeah.
And I will listen to Audible. I will listen to a podcast. When I get to work, I dump a few sentences down in a notebook, what I've learned, what I want to do with it. So I'm intentional in that way. But I will say, I don't learn something unless I touch it, see it, smell it, feel
Mm.
it. So I will often listen to an Audible and then buy the book and highlight it and put notes in it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't spark me, then I probably don't buy the book, but I'm very much a both person.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm right there with you. As a matter of fact, I've talked to different people, and I'm like, if I listen to an Audible after I listen to 5 minutes, man, I'm ordering the book because I need to have it in my hands as well.
Yep.
Hey, here we are, 2023. What are you grateful for?
Ooh, so much. I am grateful for my husband,
Hmm.
who is always my best cheerleader every time I go after a certification or go after a new degree or go after a new volunteering opportunity. He's always right there, supporting me and, making sure that, I'm doing good things out there. I'm grateful for my dogs. They are kind of my family here at home, and we invest so much time and energy in them, and they run our house. So I'm grateful for them. I'm also grateful for the professional and personal opportunities I've had. I think I've been fortunate to experience a lot of great things, had a lot of great people invest in me. And so I'm grateful for them. I'm also grateful for just just the opportunities that keep presenting itself to pay it forward. So I'm just grateful altogether.
Yeah, I love that. Great leaders are grateful leaders. Absolutely. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Hey, so I know that you talked about, camping, you like to go outdoors, you like to read, and of course all that energizes. What else energizes you?
Ooh. Um, More of the same, right? And I say that more of the same is like when I see people having success or achieve their
Yeah.
goals, and I've got to be just a tiny part of the encouragement in it,
Mm,
I'm just jazzed. I just want to keep
mm,
doing it and watching it happen over and over and over. I just get so much joy out of
yeah.
seeing people achieve their goals. I came from a small town. Not a lot of people had big goals, and when I get to see people achieve those big goals, I get super jazzed. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's joy. It's joy.
I love that. Hey, we're down to the last question. My favorite question that I like to ask. Crystal, 10 years older, and
Yeah.
she's knocking at your door, and you're going to go answer that door. What's she going to say?
Mm, you did hard things. That means you got through uncomfortable moments. You had courage, you had vulnerability, and man, 10 years will go by in a flash, and look at all the great things you got to do.
That's fantastic. I love that. That's a 10 years older, wiser Crystal Nichols. I'm so glad you came on the show today
Yeah.
as we just get started in 2023. Hey, if somebody heard something about what you're doing, they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to connect?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I think you can find me under Crystal Nichols or LinkedIn /Nichols C. I'm also pretty active on Twitter,
Hmm.
Crystal R Nichols on Twitter. And yeah, I'd love an inbox note. And if I can inspire you in some way, let me know. I'm happy to do that.
Crystal, you inspire me, and I'm so thankful
Oh,
to know you, to have you on the show today, to share your wisdom. And I did listen. I cannot wait to share this. There's so many takeaways, and I know there's going to be some listeners that got a lot out of this. So for that, I say thank you so much, and especially for your friendship.
most importantly, thank you. I appreciate you so much, Bruce.
Awesome. I can't wait to share. I'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks.